Good morning, children. Welcome to the next class of biobotany. Hope all are fine and doing your studies daily, sincerely. Children, utilize this time properly and study for gaining the knowledge and not for your exams only. All the very best for you. So, let's start our today's class. In today's class, we are going to study two topics. First topic what you are going to study is about the agents of cross pollination, and the next one is fertilization in plants. So first let us recall what is pollination. Already we have studied this. So let's recall it again. What is pollination? So pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma. So already we know anther is the part of the male reproductive part of the flower, and stigma is the part of the female reproductive part of the flower. So here, as we know, this is a stamen. Stamen has two parts, anther and the filament. Inside the anther you can find the pollen grains. These pollen grains from the anther, they are transferred to the stigma. As we know, that is the female reproductive part of the flower is called the gynoecium. It has three parts, stigma, style and the ovary at the base. So here, this transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma, this is called as pollination. Now this is possible in two ways. The transfer of pollen grain is possible in two ways. That is, the pollen grain can be transferred from anther to the stigma within a flower, or the transfer of pollen grain from one flower to another flower of the stigma but in the same plant. Then we call it as self-pollination. Next, what we have studied, the cross pollination. So transfer of pollen grain from one plant, pollen grain from one plant is transferred to the stigma in another plant, but both the plants should be of the same species. Okay, this we call it as the cross pollination. Now for this transfer of pollen grain from one plant to another plant, it requires some agent, some means should be there to transport this. So the means or the agents which help in this transport of pollen grains, they are either the insects or the water or wind or animals. They help in this transport. So that we are going to study today. The agents of cross pollination we are going to study here today. So first one, in order to bring about cross pollination, it is necessary that the pollen should be carried from one flower to another of a different plant. This is already we have studied about the cross pollination. Okay, this takes place through the agency of animals, insects, wind and water. So this transfer of pollen grain from one flower to another flower in another plant is taking place either with the help of animals or insects or wind or water. They are called as the agents of pollination. So let's study each one in detail. So pollination by wind. So the transfer of pollen grain, when it is taking place with the help of the wind, then it is called as anemophily. The word anemo means wind. The word anemo means wind and the word phily means liking. So here the transfer of pollen grains is taking place with the help of wind is called as anemophily. And the flowers which are pollinated with the help of the wind, they are called as anemophilous flowers. Okay. So what are the characteristics of this anemophilous flowers, or where the pollen grains is transferred with the help of the wind, or what are the features should be seen in this flowers, that we are going to study here now. So first feature that should be seen in the plant is they should produce enormous amount of pollen grains. That is, the flowers which are pollinated by wind, they should produce large number of pollen grains. So as these pollen grains are transferred with the help of the wind, all the pollen grains will not deposit on the suitable stigma. Okay, some of the pollen grains they may fall on the wrong plant. Okay, unmatched plant. So if they fall on the unmatched plant, they will not deposit there. So here for the as a result, for this pollination to take place, the pollen grains produced by the plants, they are large in number, so that at least few may reach to the correct plant. Next is the pollen grains, they should be small in size, they should be smooth, smooth surface, they should be dry and they should be light in weight, so that they can be carried by the wind. Now the pollens, what we are saying, they are transferred from one plant to another. They may sometimes travel to a distance of more than 1,000 kilometers also. So if these features are present only, they can be carried by the wind. Next adaptation that should be seen in the Anemophilous flowers, they are the stigma should be comparatively large. Okay, so the wind pollinated flowers, the stigma of these flowers, they should be large in size. They should be protruding means projecting outwards. Okay, it should be visible, it should be exposed, then only they can trap the pollen grains. And sometimes they should be hairy to trap the pollen grain. So next feature can the stigma is seen as they should have some hairy outgrowths, then so that they can trap the pollen grains. So this is the features of the wind pollinated flowers. So example for that is grasses, okay, and some cacti. Next we are going to study pollination by insects. The insect is a pollinating agent. So pollination, it is taking place with the help of insect like honeybees or flies. Then it is called as entomophily. The word entomo means refers to insects. Phily again means liking. So the pollination taking place with the help of insects, that is called as entomophily. So the insects which help in this pollination, they are honeybees, flies. Mostly the pollination is carried out with the help of the honeybees. Now what are the features seen in this entomophilous flowers? So entomophilous flowers means the flowers which are pollinated by insects. To attract the insects, these flowers, they are brightly colored, have smell and nectar. So first feature that is seen in these flowers, they should be brightly colored. The flower should be attractive. Okay, they should have bright colors. They should have smell and nectar. As we know, the insects, they visit the flower to suck the nectar. If the flower is secreting the nectar only, the insects will visit there, and then only the pollination can take place. The pollen grains are larger in size. The exine is pitted, spiny, etc. So next feature seen here is the pollen grains, they should be larger in size. Next, exine. Exine, as we know, it is said to be the outer surface of the pollen grain. The outer surface of the pollen grain should be rough. They should have some spine-like outgrowth. Some spores should be present there. Then only they can fix on the surface of the insect. Even they can fix over the surface of the stigma. Approximately 80% of the pollination done by the insects is carried by the honeybees. Next pollinating agent what you are going to study is water. So when the pollination is carried out with the help of water, it is called as hydrophily. Hydro means water, phily means liking. So the pollination with the help of water is seen mostly in the aquatic plants. Aquatic plants means the plants which are growing in water. Now what are the features of this hydrophilous flowers? First feature, the pollen grains produced should be large in number. Next, the pollen grains, they are floating on the surface of water till they land on the stigma of the female flowers. So here again the pollen grain should be light in weight so that they can float in water. Another feature you can find in the pollen grain, they are larger in size, then only they can reach to the suitable female flower. So common example of the hydrophilous flowers, they are Hydrilla vallisneria. Next pollinating agent what you are going to study is pollination by animals. So here when pollination takes place with the help of animals, it is called as zoophily. So when the animal acts as a pollinating agent, it is called as the zoophily. So flowers of such plants, they attract the animals by their bright color, size, scent, etc. So again another feature of this flowers which are pollinated by animals, they should the flower should have the ability to attract the animals. For that they should have the bright color. Flower should have the bright colored petals. They should have some scent in it. They should be of larger size. Next, they should be able to by these features they will be able to attract the insects. So common examples of this animals which help in this pollination, they are sunbird. So sunbird pollinate the flowers of canna, gladuli, etc. Another animal which helps in the pollination is squirrel. The squirrel helps in the pollinate flowers of silk, cotton tree. Okay, so hope you have understood the pollinating agents.